Com, sitting here with Brendon Doherty at the Cutler Classic, and you just went on stage and you won your class in the open middleweight. And it's a big deal, obviously, to win a class at a big show like this, but it's a bigger deal for you because you have a unique story that led you here. I remember, I think I met you a few years ago when you were doing, where you were a heavyweight at the time.
Light heavyweight.
Light heavyweight at the time. What show was that where I met you?
I was a junior nationals.
Junior nationals, yeah, national level bodybuilder. Right. So give us a little bit of a version of your story. What has brought you to here?
Well, in a nutshell, last year, it was right around April, I was actually preparing for this show, the 2012 Cutler Classic. Had taken a couple years off from bodybuilding and was trying to make some improvements that I needed to make, and then was going to start here with a qualification and move on to a junior level show or something of that nature if if I felt my physique was up to it. So anyhow, I was prepping for the show, feeling pretty good, just the typical symptoms of pre-contest prep, tired, things like that. No crazy symptoms. All of a sudden one day, I was coming home from school. I'm going to school for nursing. I stopped to go tanning, came out, had a meal, started getting a stomach ache, thought it was food poisoning or flu or something like that. Long story short, went home, didn't go away, waited 24 hours or so, and pain was excruciating. So went to the emergency room, and they did some scans, and they found out that I was severely bleeding internally, and they called a helicopter in, med-flighted me into Boston. So got into Boston, got some scans, found out that I had some massive liver tumors that were there for a long time, that I was most likely genetically disposed to, and they just kind of get out of control whenever found. So the main artery source to one of those had burst, and that's why I was bleeding. So that kind of started the cycle. There was a week ICU stay, followed by a recovery from the bleeding, followed by a surgery in June 18th of last year, where they did a liver resection, where they go in, they took out 80% of my liver, took out the tumors that they could get to. At the time, they had no assumption that any of the tumors were malignant, that they were cancerous. They just thought that they were growths on my liver. So went in and took them out with no regard for the fact that they could have been cancerous. So followed up on that surgery about 8 weeks later, thinking that I was in the clear. I was starting to recover. Went back in, they found the pathology results that all the tumors were cancerous.
Why is it important that they should have known that before the surgery?
It's funny because that was my biggest concern, but I guess supposedly this is so statistically rare. They've actually never seen a case like this in Mass General Hospital, which is one of the biggest hospitals in the world. At my age, at my risk factor, my health, with the tumors that were in there, usually they're always non-malignant. So they actually didn't take any steps to check into that, which I don't know if that's legally correct or not, but it is what it is. They found out after the fact that they were cancerous, so there were still a few that they couldn't get to. So at the 8-week post-op visit, found out I had to go in for another surgery September 20th after they cut me. You can't see it too much on my tan, but they cut me from here on my oblique up and across down to my ab and then up to my sternum. Opened me up. They took out 80% of my liver, took my gallbladder out. So anyhow, the last surgery was September 18th. Got out as much as the liver as they could. Obviously, you can't live without a liver, so you have to keep it in there. The liver does regrow, it regenerates. It's the only organ in your body that can do that. So they took out as much as they could with the intent that it was going to grow back. So following the second surgery, went back. They found out that there was still more tumors that were left that they could not remove. There was as much liver as they could take out. Chemotherapy wasn't an option for me because the liver isn't responsive to chemotherapy. I wasn't eligible for a transplant. They have a MELD scoring system in the United States. So anyhow, I was left with basically 2 years to live, and they were going to put me on some chemo med just to kind of suppress the cancer at the time. And they said basically until you don't make it or you can't tolerate the sides, you'll stay on the med. So I didn't want that because I would have rather just call my shots and just live healthy and not take that drug. So I started looking into alternative methods. I looked into vegetable juicing and all these things that I thought were off the wall at first. I'm kind of a skeptic on most things. I just I didn't think cancer, a lot of people die from it. You have modern medicine, how is some sort of vegetable juicing or supplementation naturally going to do anything? So I figured, what the heck, I might as well try it. So started looking into that and researching that extensively like I do with bodybuilding, like we all do. Came up with my best plan, and I just thought, man, I have no other choice. Let this be my passion now. So I went at it full force with nutrition, doing organic eating, raw vegetable juicing, liver detoxes like almost daily, lemon flushes, apple cider vinegar, the whole 9 yards, the super green foods, spirulina, chlorella, this and that. Went back actually 3 months later for my follow-up scan, and the tumors had just about disappeared miraculously. I walked in, the demeanor had changed, and the doctors had a smile on their face. They just called me a miracle. They were pretty reluctant to give me any credit for anything I did, but that was honestly fine with me. If the tumors are gone, I didn't care what they thought. So basically at that point, they just, that was right around Christmas time. The doctor shook my hand, said, Merry Christmas. Come back March 5th. We're going to follow up on a scan and see how things go. So started feeling a little more positive at the time, and I was really on my nutrition. I never stopped my training. I actually I had ICU stay for 4 days, followed by a few days stay on the general floor. Came home that day, got on my treadmill, and I walked in the door and just started walking. I got on the treadmill and did 10 minutes and then 15 minutes a few days later, and just kept bumping it up. And I think I actually went back to the gym for sanity purposes, and I actually had to lie to my family as to where I was going. It was either sit at home and be depressed and take my pain meds, or it was maybe have a little bit of coffee and go to the gym and just be tedious and not hurt myself and train. So I think 10 days after my surgery, I was in the gym wrapped up. I get some pictures, had the drains in there and stuff, and I don't know whether it's smart or not, it worked for me.
What did the doctors say about being, going back into bodybuilding, or do you even?
They hate it. They're very stereotypical about it. You even mention anything about the word bodybuilding. I almost had to, for the sake of my own good, I almost had to tell them that I was done bodybuilding and working out, and I was more or less just into cardio and things like that. I still told them I went to the gym, but you kind of have to appease them because you need them on your team. If they're not with you and they think that you're working against them, they don't want to work with you.
Right.
So anyways, I followed up on the scan. I kind of right around mid-June, I started getting the idea, well, I'm already in the gym, I'm eating so clean. Let me see if I can push it. And I didn't tell anybody, because in case it didn't work out, I didn't want to have to back out of it. So I started kind of prepping for the show. Couldn't eat much protein, was basically organic vegetables and little bits of protein here and there on like some weak point days, and made a promise to myself that March 5th, if that would be 7 weeks out from the show, if the scans were clear, at that point I'd bump my protein up a little bit. Still couldn't use any supplements, no pre-workout supplements, no protein powders, nothing of anything. I actually just...
So you're a natural bodybuilder.
Have to be a natural bodybuilder, yeah, at this point. There's no option. So I figured I usually compete at the top of light heavyweights. Maybe I could sneak into a middleweight class. I did this more or less just for the inspiration of other people, because a lot of people kind of fall in the battle and saw how I was still in the gym and training and progressing, and I thought, man, this feels good. The inspiration feels good. So even if I do it to inspire somebody else, if somebody can see me do something impossible and that inspires them, that was good to me. That was more satisfying to me than any show I've ever competed at. If I came in 20 pounds bigger, I'm never going to be a pro bodybuilder, this or that. I don't have the genetics for either that. I don't have the know-how to get to that point. So this to me is more satisfying. Today I got a lot of people here watching that showed up, and this to me is probably definitely the most satisfying moment in bodybuilding that I've ever had. And I've been doing this not competing for 15 years, but training for 15 years and things like that. And so I just won the middleweight class here. Feels good. And my next goal now is June 5th. I have another follow-up scan, MRI. So after the show, it's not the usual. I go out and,
You're not going to go crazy.
Get big, get bigger, eat some food, start to feel some fullness and train. And I actually will probably go do like a juice fast this week and cut my protein back and, still train and all that stuff. But with a different approach. Now my goal is to make sure that everything's still on point on June 5th. So the biggest struggle of this whole battle was, first off, that I had to diet a lot harder because metabolically in a bad state when I started the diet. But the mental state of wondering every day what's going on in my body, wondering if you start getting a cold, if you feel fatigued, when you're tired and you're pushing yourself to go to the gym, is it because something's going on with my liver? I don't know how many times, probably 3 or 4 times a day, I would look at my eyes in the mirror and I'm like, my eyes getting yellow, or they're getting jaundice, or something going on with my liver. No matter what it was, if my body temperature was up, if my metabolism was up, I would think that maybe it was something to do with, my health. So throughout everything, that was the biggest struggle. But the most satisfying thing really was almost the doubt throughout the whole prep as to whether I was going to be able to make it to this point the way that I did. But basically, I've learned through the experience with the cancer and the battles, and actually just with bodybuilding in general, like I always say to people, bodybuilding actually was something that I kind of frowned upon after all this, through this, but I realized that bodybuilding has actually made me the person I am, the strength that I have, the discipline I have to do the diet I did, all the treatments. So I stuck true to it, and I stuck true to all the principles I needed to do, and I prepped for the show, and I kind of just hoped that throughout this whole thing that I would maybe teach some other people something about, putting in the effort for the greater good of something down the road, suffering now for a greater payoff. And I'm really excited because I know that not even for a win in my class, because it's in the grand scheme of life, it's not a huge thing, but what it means to me on a deeper level and to everybody watching is feels good. Feels really good. So
very, very, very inspiring story, and big congratulations. You definitely accomplished a lot. It's all about overcoming adversity, and you certainly overcome quite a bit here. So there you go. Brendon Doherty, Aaron Singerman, rxmuscle.com.